They were strangled, deliberately and meticulously killed by this defendant on January 24th of 2023. One by one, she wrapped exercise bands around each one of the kids' necks and pulled until their little bodies were limp and lifeless.
The prosecutors say Lindsay Clancy did it.
And he knew when he brought this charge that it was going to kill the soul of this young woman. And they would bring their evidence in front of a jury that she knows that she killed these children.
Her defense is saying she did it. The only real issue in dispute at Lindsay Clancy's triple murder trial is whether
The prosecution says Lindsay Clancy did it. Her defense says she did it. The only question in this trial is whether she should be held responsible. And yet, more than 20% of the people following this case believe the entire courtroom has it backwards. They're not pointing at Lindsay. They're pointing at the man who lost everything, Patrick Clancy. His DNA is on the bands, not hers.
she should be held criminally responsible because of her mental illness. But a growing number of people don't agree with the prosecution or the defense.
And that single piece of testimony has turned this case into something the lawyers never expected. Before we go deeper into what the evidence actually shows, make sure you're subscribed to Shadow Jury Archives. Because we don't just cover the story, we follow the facts. This was never supposed to be a whodunit. Lindsay Clancy admitted she strangled her 3 children with exercise bands on January 24, 2023. Her attorney, Kevin Reddington, told the court from the very beginning they would stipulate to the homicides.
Kevin Reddington has, since the inception of this case, has gone to the Commonwealth and said, look, we'll stipulate to the homicides. My client did it. My client has done this. He stipulated, he offered to stipulate right before the trial started again, and it's been a continuing thing.
His client did it. The only real issue is whether postpartum psychosis made her incapable of understanding what she was doing. But the internet has a different theory.
Patrick Clancy.
She said she heard a man's voice telling her that if she didn't do it now, she would lose her chance.
So what exactly is
And it starts with a simple question. If her fingerprints aren't on the bands, whose are? The forensic testimony that launched 1,000 TikToks was straightforward.
The triple murder trial of Lindsay Clancy is the biggest case in the nation. It's not supposed to be a whodunit, but there's a whole bunch of people online that are now pointing the finger at someone else, not Lindsay Clancy, but Patrick Clancy.
Trooper Jonathan O'Loughlin told the jury investigators recovered no usable fingerprints from the knife or the 3 exercise bands. No prints on the yellow band, no prints on the black band, no prints on the blue band. The knife that prosecutors say she used to cut her own wrists and throat before jumping out a second-story window. Nothing. And in the echo chamber of true crime forums, that absence became presence. If her prints weren't there, the argument goes, somebody else's must have been. So they started asking, what about Patrick Clancy? The DNA evidence that came later only fueled the fire. On the yellow exercise band, the one used on 5-year-old Cora, the criminalist testified that Lindsay Clancy was excluded from the DNA profile. But Patrick Clancy was included, a likelihood ratio of 1.4 billion times more likely if it originated from him than from an unknown person.
The DNA profile from this item is at least 1.4 billion times more likely if it originated from Patrick Clancy and an unknown individual than if it originated from 2 unknown, unrelated individuals. This provides support that Patrick Clancy is included as a contributor to this DNA profile. Cora Clancy and Lindsay Clancy are excluded from this DNA profile. The mixture DNA profile from this item is consistent with having originated from 2 individuals. There are 3 individuals who have a likelihood ratio that indicates an inclusion.
The defense even conceded Lindsay's DNA was on the bands in open court. But that doesn't mean her fingerprints were. Those are 2 very different things. And somewhere in that gap, a parallel narrative was born. His DNA is on the bands, not hers.
The question was simple. Do you believe Patrick Clancy is responsible? Boom. 21% saying yes. 79% saying no. All right, the 79% aren't saying that Lindsay Clancy necessarily is guilty, but Patrick Clancy isn't the one who took the lives of their 3 children. And that's kind of important, right? But 21% is not a negligible number. That's like a real
That became the rallying cry.
line, though, she talked about was his DNA is on the bands, not hers. So I want to dive into that issue and take a listen to some of the DNA evidence. We begin with the blue exercise band, which was used to take the life of little baby.
And once that seed was planted,
of what folks are saying and why folks believe that Patrick Clancy is involved. And again, he hasn't been charged with anything, and no one is pointing the finger at him. None of the investigators, no one from the DA's office, no one from the defense team, whose job it is to do anything and everything to defend their client. So if someone else was responsible, or there was evidence that someone else was responsible, it would seem Kevin Reddington and his team would have to uncover that and would have to make those arguments, but they're not. So here's what Tony Ann said. And number one, his DNA is on the bands, not hers.
every other detail started to look like a cover-up. The timeline didn't add up.
CVS to the restaurant. Remember, when he leaves the house, he goes to CVS first, then goes to the restaurant to pick up the food, and then returns home. And the allegation is here that he goes to CVS, he's wearing clothes, so one set of clothes there, and then somehow changes his clothes in between going from CVS to the restaurant. Her prescription bottles are in his car. He stated under oath that it takes 3 minutes to get to the CVS, yet he didn't enter it until 5:32.
The family hasn't given it over. It's a simple question with no simple answer. Where is Nolan's phone? The friends on the boat have handed over their phones voluntarily to
From
the FBI.
CVS to the restaurant. Remember, when he leaves the house, he goes to CVS first, then goes to the restaurant to pick up the food, and then returns home. And the allegation is here that he goes to CVS, he's wearing clothes, so one set of clothes there, and then somehow changes his clothes in between going from CVS to the restaurant. Her prescription bottles are in his car. He stated under oath that it takes 3 minutes to get to the CVS, yet he didn't enter it until 5:32.
Patrick said it took 3 minutes to get to CVS, but surveillance footage showed he didn't enter until 5:32. He claimed he sent a work email from his car, but also said it was sent from his Surface Pro, which was at home. Then, he said it could have been from his iPhone. The shoes he wore at CVS looked different from the shoes he wore at the restaurant, where he picked up dinner just minutes before coming home to find his family destroyed. Her Apple Watch, the one she supposedly used to call
Her
him,
Apple Watch was found in a drawer, yet it appears he has it on his hand when he's entering the CVS. And this is significant because there was a call while he's at CVS to Lindsay.
was found in a drawer. But if you look closely at the surveillance video, some say you can see it on his wrist at CVS. His DNA is on the bands, not hers. The pieces were all there. They just needed to be rearranged. Lindsay was overmedicated, hearing voices broken. A woman who had been prescribed 13 psychiatric medications in 4 months. Her body temperature in the ER was reported to be 82.1 degrees. Suspiciously low, some said. Like she'd been out there longer than anyone admitted. And Patrick had moved on so fast. A solo trip to Central America just weeks after the deaths. Youth hostels to avoid the sight of vacationing families, a reporter noted. Then a new wife. Dr. Rachel Danis, a fertility specialist. They ran a marathon together just days before the tragedy, the conspiracy theories claimed. Except they didn't. That was 2026, not 2023. But by the time the fact check catches up, the damage is done. His DNA is on the bands, not hers. It's a closed loop. It doesn't need to be proven. It just needs to feel true. But here's the problem. The same forensic expert who found Patrick's DNA on the yellow band also made clear that family members' DNA is mixed together. The blue band had a mixture of 5 contributors: Lindsay, Patrick, and all 3 children. The black band was too complex to be suitable for comparison at all. And even on the yellow band, the criminalist said the inclusion could be impacted by mixtures containing relatives, especially first-degree relatives. Patrick's DNA being there doesn't prove anything. He lived in that house. He handled those bands. He testified that when he came home and found his children, he ran to the basement and removed those bands from their necks. His DNA is exactly where you'd expect it to be.
And by the way, why would Patrick Clancy's DNA be on there? He testified that when he went to the basement, he removed the exercise bands from his 3 children. So yeah, his DNA should be there. Her DNA, yeah, it is not eliminated from being there. So on that issue, I think the focus really ended up on that.
The fact that usable fingerprints weren't recovered from a textured, stretchy piece of rubber that had been handled by an entire family for months is not surprising. Fingerprints are fragile. They need a smooth surface and the right kind of contact. A knife gripped hard and covered in blood leaves a smear, not a ridge pattern. The online community has created a narrative that feels more coherent than the messy reality of mental illness. It's easier to believe in a villain who planned it all, a husband who manipulated the system, than to accept that a mother could kill her own children without understanding what she was doing. That's the uncomfortable truth at the heart of this case. And the internet doesn't want to believe it. They point to Patrick and say,
people will start asking the question, well, how didn't Patrick know? And why would Patrick have ever left her alone with the kids? And that's kind of the thing where I'm seeing a lot of comments like that, where it's a little bit of blame shifting over to Patrick because he put her in a position to be able to do it.
He should have known she was that far off. Why would he ever leave her alone with the kids? He was supposed to protect them, but her own treating doctors had assured him she posed no danger. He did exactly what he was told to do. Kevin Reddington, Lindsay's attorney, has been representing her since the minute this happened. He's a 50-year veteran of the Massachusetts bar. He has access to every piece of discovery in this case, and he never pointed a finger at Patrick. Not once. If there was any evidence, any possibility that her husband had done this,
possible that he could have pointed the finger at Patrick, that's a way easier case than trying to get to land an insanity defense with the jury. It's so hard to do, man.
Reddington would have found it. It would have been a much easier defense than legal insanity. But he didn't, because the evidence doesn't exist. The ticking clock on this trial isn't just about a verdict. It's about what happens when the people in the jury room are sequestered, unable to go down the rabbit hole. They don't see the freeze frames, the shoe comparisons, the fevered timelines. They see a father on the witness stand.
Was she conscious?
Semi-conscious, in and out of consciousness.
And what was she doing that gave you that indication?
She would wake up and move around and then kind of just go still again.
And when you say she would move around, what parts of her body was she moving?
Just her head, really.
Was she able to speak to you?
She wasn't, no.
Was she making any sounds?
She was just, it sounded like she was in pain.
So something like moaning or something like that?
Yes.
Describing the moment he came upon his wife with her wrists and neck cut, and she told him she tried to kill herself. He asked, "Where are the kids?"
Did you say anything to Lindsay when you found her in that state?
Yeah, I said, what happened?
And what was her response?
She said I tried to kill myself.
Did you ask her anything else?
I said, where are the kids?
And what was her response?
She said they're in the basement.
Okay, that's pretty clear. That's pretty straightforward, right? Now,
She said, "They're in the basement." Then he ran down there and found his 5-year-old daughter with a band around her neck, face down and unresponsive. His 8-month-old son next to her, the same. His 3-year-old son in the office, the same. The jury heard the 911 call, filled with his gut-wrenching screams, so graphic the judge prohibited its public release. They saw him cry. They saw Lindsay cry. In that moment, they weren't looking for a conspiracy. They were looking at a tragedy, and the online community was looking at screenshots. So why does this happen? Why do people cling to these theories? It's not just about being right. It's about making a chaotic world make sense. A woman who was a labor and delivery nurse, who was on a first-name basis with psychiatrists, who was prescribed a cocktail of medications that would knock anyone off balance, who heard a man's voice telling her to act. That story doesn't have a neat ending. It forces us to confront something we don't want to face. That the mind can break without warning. That love and devastation can exist in the same person. That someone you trusted could become someone you don't recognize. But a conspiracy theory has a villain. A villain you can point to. A villain you can hate. A villain you can lock away and feel justice has been served. That's the real emotional charge of this case. It's not about Patrick Clancy. It's about us. Our refusal to accept that the world is random, cruel, and indifferent to our expectations. The truth is there in the testimony, in the stipulations, in the DNA that doesn't say what people want it to say. But accepting it means accepting that a mother killed her children. And that's a wound some people just can't stomach. Now it's your turn. Go to the public docket for Plymouth Superior Court. Pull the forensic stipulation both sides agreed to. Read the exact testimony of the criminalist and the fingerprint examiner. Then ask yourself one question. Did the evidence Patrick Clancy was involved, or did we just want him to be? Because the difference between those two answers is the difference between a verdict and a vendetta. If you made it this far, drop a like. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to Shadow Jury Archives and turn on notifications, because we don't just follow the headlines. We follow the evidence. See you in the next one.